Broadcasting live in the shadow of the Mario Lanza Museum at the High Note Cafe, permeating steel structures, impervious to conventional radio waves. This is Radio Voice Italia. We have with us tonight a very special gentleman. His name is Michael Bonasera, and you got a very special name, Mike.
Yes, it means good evening in Italian.
And you are the impetus behind the History of Italian Immigration Museum.
Correct, and it's celebrating Italian roots and American dreams. The History of Italian Immigration Museum was born out of FILITALIA International. Now, FILITALIA International is an organization, international organization with 26 chapters and up to 700 members presently. We have a dozen chapters here in the U.S. as well as in Italy. What we have found as the organization is that we want to build our organization, grow its membership, and go from, let's say, 700 to 1,000 strong.
Absolutely. That sounds like a good thing.
One of the problems with growing, of course, is we have a number of chapters here in the U.S. are well-established chapters with and they are really the heart of our organization. They have built it over the last 20 years. And many of the European chapters are quite new. One of the challenges is how do we get young people involved in FILITALIA International?
Exactly. That is what you need to address. As many organizations, you need to bring in new members.
And because we're trying to perpetuate the Italian culture and the membership, wants us to, certainly to preserve that culture. How do we get that message out, and how do we allow the organization to live on in the future? How do we get those new leaders of the organization? How do we grow membership within these existing chapters? How do we add new chapters in the United States, for instance? So when we were thinking about some of these issues, he says, well, one of the areas that would certainly be in concert with the FILITALIA International mission is to create a museum. Not just an Italian museum, not just an Italian-American museum, but history of Italian-American immigration. See, because it is those Italian roots that we brought here, that our parents and grandparents and even great-grandparents for some of the people here have spent their entire lives working in whatever trades that they brought with them from Italy, and for the purpose of making their children's lives a better life, a better place. The celebration, of course, is the outcome of those efforts, and that's what we want to focus on.
It's good. And to keep the heritage out front so the young people know exactly how things started, when they started, gives them a real good point of reference, and they can see how things evolved over the years since, they've been around.
Now, as I said, as far as starting a museum and why choose a museum as that venue, well, we felt that it would be in concert with the FILITALIA International mission, which, if I can quote, is to promote, protect, preserve Italian heritage, language and culture, and customs throughout the world. How do we do that? To promote and protect and preserve the Italian heritage and culture. By creating a museum, we have a repository for all the artifacts, a place for the stories of our parents and grandparents to be housed. A lot of times you might hear from your parents. I grew up in an Italian family, and you hear some stories from your grandparents or from an aunt that remembers everything. Oh, yeah. But it's the word of mouth. And that is the sadness of it, is because sooner or later they pass away, and that information, it could be very well lost forever.
This needs to be documented on an ongoing basis. As you say, the repository for this is exactly the ideal situation. Your museum is needed in Philadelphia.
And it's not just strictly related just to Philadelphia. This is, like I said, a worldwide organization. The story is the same. The story is the same for whatever region the Italian Americans came from or have immigrated to. But I think that by starting this museum, we found that the excitement is contagious. When people hear that you're coming up with something like this, they start thinking about all of their stories.
I know, it's incredible. There's momentum, and it just takes off.
So our goal is to start this museum. We plan on opening on June 1 on Passyunk Avenue.
Passyunk, and the address is 1834 East Passyunk, correct?
Correct. We're going to open it on June 1, which is the Festa della Repubblica. That is an event that we have put on for a number of years now. And we've had some 5,000 to 8,000 people roaming the streets, and with the streets are shut down for the events, and we've had live music and things for kids and face painting and stuff like that in the past. Of course, we have a rich collection of restaurants and merchants in that area, so it's a fun place to be, and it would be great. So we plan on opening it up. We're going to have the Consul General, Dr. Andre Capagna. He's going to be, we're hoping that he'll help us with the ribbon cutting ceremony.
That sounds terrific. He should be there.
Yes. Well, we have him down there as being that. We're currently doing a fundraiser. The fundraiser is scheduled for April 10th, Thursday, starting at 6 p.m. at the Pyramid Club on 1735 Market Street, Philadelphia. That's on the 52nd floor of the Mellon Building.
Wow, quite a view from there.
Yes, it is quite a view. We're going to have a night of art, culture, music, and we'll appreciate those breathtaking views. And we'll have an art auction, a silent auction, with the intent of promoting the museum and starting to raise some funds to make it happen.
And can you give us an idea of some of the holdings in the museum? Anything?
Well, we're going. The plan for the museum. We do have a collection management policy already underway and written, and we plan on having 3 separate areas of the museum. One is the permanent collection, which would be housing those items that are of special value, perhaps from a historic reason, or strictly from a value reason, where you want to preserve it in perpetuity, as a museum would. The second area is the utility and education and reference collection. The idea of that is it would be a hands-on exhibit, where in the hands-on exhibit, we might have an example of how do you make pasta with the old equipment.
Right.
Maybe a demonstration on winemaking or other cuisines that maybe are from past generations, different stuff like that. But the third, and I think the probably the most important to our membership, as well as people who are interested in the heritage of Italian, is the Genealogy Center.
Absolutely, sure.
And in the Genealogy Center, we're hoping to collect those family tales, the stories of what brought them here, what brought the forefathers here, how did they go about earning a living in those times, and what are the circumstances that brought them to want to create a life for themselves here in America. So those are important. That is probably the most important area of it. That is, going to be near and dear to all of our members' hearts, because we'll be listening to their stories and others as well.
Now, if anyone has any interesting artifacts they might want to part with and donate to the museum, are they able to do that? Who do they contact?
Well, they can contact myself, Michael Bonasera. I can be contacted at mabonasera@aol.com, and we would be more than happy to talk with you and find out about what you might have. But with every artifact has to come a story.
Sure, it doesn't really stand on its own.
No, it doesn't. And so we're interested in artifacts for the museum, and as long as it's related to the Italian heritage that came, from your family, that's what we want to see.
Okay, Mike, if someone does in fact have an artifact and a story to tell, how will that be documented at the museum?
Well, the first step would be is that either a representative of the museum or through our email we can forward a temporary artifact receipt form. The point of that is to capture all the relevant information of that particular artifact. Where was it manufactured? How old it was? What was the ownership of the item in question? How was it used? Where was it used? Those kind of things could be answered through the form, if you will. Those forms and that artifact, as that person would have a temporary receipt, would then it would get to the museum. The museum management would review it, see if it is suitable for inclusion in the museum. Because if it is part of the permanent collection, it certainly is a responsibility that the museum must take to preserve it.
Sure, exactly.
So there's a reason for that. Pending the acceptance of it, and that's usually quite readily available. But once we've accepted it, then there would be a deed of gift. And we are a 501c3 organization, so that artifact could be tax deductible contribution. So that's what we're looking to do.
So it's great. So I am very happy to know that you're doing this. We wish you all the best of continued success. And we want to remind everybody the big grand opening is on Sunday, June 1st at 1834 East Passyunk Avenue. And once again, the fundraising event for the History of Italian Immigration Museum will take place on Thursday, April 10th, and it'll be held at the Pyramid Club, the 52nd floor of the Mellon Building here in Center City, Philadelphia. It sounds like a great time, and we wish you the greatest success with that.
Thank you so much, and we're so proud that you were able to do this interview and get this word out to your listening audience.
Absolutely, and we're going to keep in touch, and we're going to tell people how everything's progressing, and we'll remind them to stop in and check everything out.
Excellent. Thank you. We look forward to having everyone there on opening day.
Okay. Thank you again, Mike. You don't need to drag out your grandfather's old shortwave radio to listen to Radio Voice Italia. You can listen online on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, or desktop computer. Radio Voice Italia. No boundaries. Broadcasting to every corner of the globe. This is Radio Voice Italia. Broadcasting in crystal clear sound. This is Radio Voice Italia, USA.